we won't help people when something bad happens to them, but when it happens to us, we want everybody in the world to help.
We out here in these streets.
We are talking about this idea of snitching. Obviously this topic is just not just about snitching, but it's also about the crime in specifically the Black community, because crime is pretty high in our Black community. And I'm just like, wow, like looking at the political landscape, we would think there's more racist crimes, whites against Black, or other races against certain people are high, but excuse me, sorry for this. But the funny thing is, it's not. Actually, the Black community has a higher rate of death amongst one another than any other race or any culture. And part of that is because, obviously, I talked about this in another show. It's about, the fatherless homes, the broken homes, how our past policies help segregate the homes, lack of jobs, lack of resources in the Black community. So, you put somebody at the survival mode. It's just like Darwin said, survival of the fittest. Guess what? You tend to bring out your violent nature. And I would say this, we have to get to a point where we care about the crime in our community before we care about what other crimes are going on in the world. This is what I like about most cultures. Most cultures make sure, one, they're policing not only themselves, but if they can't police themselves, they're making sure that the real authorities are getting involved. And this gets with this idea of snitching. Like, other cultures will snitch on themselves quickly if I'll give you an instance, like Asian community. Now, this is not racist, but it may be to some. but when like a kid or somebody in their community is not doing what they're supposed to do or bringing shame upon their community, they're quick to excommunicate those people from their community, get rid of them, and if they have to, put them in jail. Get them out of here. We don't want to have nothing to do with them, right? Same thing if you notice that with the African culture, not the African American culture, but the African culture, they're quick to hold each other to a higher standard, and if you don't, you get ostracized. It's the same thing in Islam and some of the Islam countries, India. It goes on in a lot of, even you see it in the Caucasian community in America. Like, they really hold their people to a standard, and when they don't, guess what? They're quick to put their kids in some type of rehab and some type of jail to make sure they get fixed. But the Black community is a little different. We see it and we look the other way. And it's part of the fact that we don't want to snitch on each other. We don't want to tell. We don't want to report. We don't want to do these things. One, we're scared that we might get killed or we might suffer some type of punishment. Or two, we feel like, oh, that's none of my business. This is none of my business until it happens to you. And it's funny how a lot of times we won't help people when something bad happens to them, but when it happens to us, we want everybody in the world to help tell and snitch and doing all this stuff. And then you come out, you gotta say something. And it's funny how we get rid of that whole snitching culture when something happens to us. So, we have to understand when it comes to this, one of the reasons why our community continues to be violent is because the violent people in our community, and why we have such high crimes in our community, is because they're still out there. And then two, we're giving them the incentive to get away with it because we don't report them, because we're scared of them. The crime in the Black community pretty much dictates what our community is going to be. When it comes to business. And I'm going to be talking about this incident that happened with this girl in Baltimore a little more, which is pertaining to the idea of people snitching. They're actually still looking for the people who did this crime against her. And but we have a violent community because we're not willing to stand up. We're always asking the police to stand up. Police got to do this. Police got to do this. Government got to do this. Government got to do this. Government got to do this. Then when they do it, we claim that they're racist, and then wondering why they don't want to do it. So I really love the fact that Malcolm X was really what's the word? He was adamant about focusing on us correcting ourselves before we allow anybody else to come in and help. That concept just goes with so many things, especially when it comes to our children in crime or our people in crime and the things that they do bad. If we're not holding them to a standard, giving them something productive to do, then guess what? We're part of the reason why they're in crime. And if we're not willing to stand up and talk about it, even if it results in some retaliation, it's never going to change, right? So we got to get to the point where we stop valuing what is the word? We got to get to the point where we stop valuing fear over actually protecting. Because the thing is this, if I see a crime committed in my community and I don't say nothing, I'm setting up my child who's going to be in this community to live in a more dangerous society, because it's going to become more and more. Every year it gets more and more and more and more and more. Look at Chicago, more and more and more. Look at Milwaukee, more and more. Detroit, more and more. It gets more and more and dangerous every time we overlook crime, every time we look past crime, every time we don't say something to the authorities, or we saw it like we're too focused on saving our own lives other than saving the future that we have, which is not with us, because we're all gonna die sometime, you know. But not only that, if you're in these communities and you don't want to snitch, then why are you still there? I would be like, hey, yo, if I was see some crime, I would go to the police like, look, okay, this is what's going on, but I'm gonna tell you who did it and what happened, but you gotta protect me. You got to help me get somewhere where I won't be, targeted. I mean, there's just ways to do this. There's ways to be anonymous with the call. There's ways to do the different things. Because at the end of the day, whether you snitch or not, if they feel like you're saying something, they're going to kill you anyway. Even if the police found out later and they think, oh, that person knew, they're going to try to kill you anyway. Because that's what criminals do, to try to get off. But the thing is, we got to get the criminals off the street. The more and more criminals we get off the street, the less and less likely we're going to have to be worrying about some type of retaliation for snitching, right? So we have to take a responsibility, and I'm talking to the Black community. This is just one part of it. Being willing to speak up when something is not being on. This is your community. Like, you know how people always say, oh, you a sellout when you get out of the community, when people start making money and they want to get out of the community. And then, oh, you a sellout because you got rich and now you forgot about your people. You know, the problem is, when I get rich, I don't want to stay in the hood because I might get killed or I might get robbed for the things I have. So why would I stay in that? Why would I want to? I want to get out of there because I want to be somewhere safe, so I'm able to continue my business. I'm able to continue building something that's substantial and sustainable. So to call me a sellout because I make money and I move out of the community, that's an oxymoron in a sense. So, but if you want people to stay in the community, then y'all people who are saying that, y'all need to help make the community safe. Why would I keep my business in the Black community when it's going to get robbed every day? And then when it gets robbed, nobody that I service or provide services for is going to help me find the person who did it. It's just going to get tucked under the rug and nobody's going to do nothing about it. So if we want to better our communities, we have to get out of the idea of snitching being a bad thing. Because snitching is not, honestly, to me, it's not a bad thing. It's a way to keep our community safe. My number one priority is keeping my community safe. And if my kids live in that community, and if this is the only community I can live in, I want my child to be able to go outside and play. Like, it's so bad in Chicago where people can't even go outside and play. And then people just look the other way because, oh, I gotta live here. There's an excuse that I gotta live here. One, you don't have to live there. You know, you can move to a whole nother state. You can move to a whole nother city. You can find some help. You can go get an education to get up out of there. All that. excuses. I gotta live here. Bruh. Feel me? You guys gotta get up out of that. I'm sorry. Look, I always say we out here in these streets, right? I want to be out here really in these streets, and I shouldn't be scared to go out in these streets. But we have to take a responsibility for our neighborhoods, not only our home neighborhood, but the neighborhood we live in, because whatever affects your neighbor affects you. And we see that in places like Baltimore and Chicago and Detroit and Milwaukee and some of these major cities, LA. It's so bad that people are paralyzed and they feel helpless, and we're always looking for people outside the community to help. And the funny thing is, there's nobody outside this community is gonna help, because they don't care. They don't live there. They're gonna be like, oh, you can kill yourself, just stay over. Don't come in my community. So if they're thinking like that, then why are you not like, man, this gotta be my community? I was actually watching some show. It was on Netflix for a minute. Was it Netflix or was it Hulu? I think it was Hulu. It was one of them. And I forgot what it was called, but it was about Inglewood in Chicago, where there was these well-to-do black people, and they had this community, and this thuggish-looking guy moved into their community, and they were banding together like, no, we don't want this dude in here. We're like, we don't want no, because they pretty much stereotyped him and thought that he was just going to be a troublemaker, which, yes, some trouble did caught up during the series. Some trouble did catch up with him, and they went over and confronted him and all this stuff. And then when they finally went over there to confront him, they found out that he was literally trying to make a better life for his family. And yes, the people who were coming against him felt dumb, like, oh man, we should have did this. But what I liked about the idea was that the community, where those black businesses, where those black homes and homeowners were, they were willing to say, okay, what are you about? Even if they made the mistake and stereotyped him, what are you about? And then at the end of all that, he ended up becoming a friend of the community, and he started molding to what the community expectations are to live there. And I think that's not a bad thing. A lot of people are, are you trying to change me? You trying to change me? No, but like when you live in a community, like I live in an HOA, and I got to follow the rules. I can't be as loud as I want to. I can't do certain things at certain times. I can't park certain places, all that stuff. I can't be like, I do what I want to, but I mold to the culture without changing who I am. I add myself to the culture, but also understand there are rules of this culture or this neighborhood that I have to abide by so that I can live. And I think we need to understand that that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's a good thing, because that helps build the worth of your community, the worth of you, relationships, all this stuff, because there's an etiquette that we have to have when we're dealing with other people and trying to live in harmony with other people. We are not, and I said this in another podcast, we are not living for ourselves, people. I said this when it came to dressing and how we dress. We're not living for ourselves. So we can't go around and say, I can do what I want. No, you can't. That ain't the society. And I've been teaching my daughter that. That ain't the society. We live in a society for other people. We're here for relationship. We're here for community. We were created to be communal, not hermits. If you want to do what you want, go in your house in the privacy of your home, or get a really big fence and do what you want to do in your own yard. But when you come outside of that house, you have to abide by the society rule. You have to abide by the etiquettes of the community, to keep things safe and keep things cordial and to keep things uniform. So, and that includes telling on people, snitching. I'm sorry, I want to take that word back. Snitching is not a bad thing. We make snitching a good thing, like what they did the N-word, huh? But anyways, we'll be back after this. Bet you're wondering how I changed so fast. That's because this video is at the end of every video, huh? But hey, just make sure you like, subscribe, push the notification bell. YouTube is changing their algorithm, so sometimes if you don't notify and put me in your list, you might not get my updates. But if not, just keep checking and keep checking in. If you're on Facebook, please like and subscribe and share. If you are listening to this on Spotify, please make sure you follow me on Spotify if you have a Spotify account. Also follow me on iTunes if you have an iTunes music account. Make sure you guys are just spreading news, spreading the word, comment, talk. I just want to hear from y'all. And not only that, make sure you listen to the other videos that are posted in this video, and listen to the podcast. I want to thank you guys. Hey, make sure you follow me. I forgot about that too. Follow me on all my social medias. That is at Chris Conscious. That's at the Wiley Life. And then the only other one is at Speak Music Radio. All right. Yo, 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 yo.